Bro, Netflix's brand new horror anime is legit breaking my mind. Netflix's new horror anime, The Summer Hikaru Died, is low-key one of the most slept-on anime to come out this year. Hello everyone, I'm Finn. Welcome back to finnfilms. Join me once again as we are breaking down everything that happened on this week's episode of Netflix's brand new horror anime, The Summer Hikaru Died. An anime filled with so many twists and turns, so many just diving deep moments down the rabbit hole. This anime continues to shock me with how it gets better and better, seemingly to every week. So then come along for the Summer Hikaru Died episode 10 in a nutshell. Last time on the Summer Hikaru Died, the boys wanting to learn more about the strange Nanuki-sama visited Old Man Takeda. This conversation devolving quickly as the old man is very paranoid and afraid. Hikaru realizing that an impurity is already inside the man, as he begins to transform, his hair growing longer and his face changing, as he grabs the katana given to him by Tanaka. Tanaka, of all people, arriving out of nowhere, stopping the old man, grabbing the katana from Takeda as he turns, cutting Hikaru's head off. Episode 10 opens as Yoshiki can only look on in shock and horror as he holds the decapitated head of his best friend. Suddenly, though, the strange eldritch-like spiritual entity within Hikaru begins erupting from its severed neck, knocking Tanaka's sunglasses off as Yoshiki desperately attempts to stick Hikaru's head back onto his body. The strange eldritch-like substance that is seemingly the true form of Nanuki-sama spreading out everywhere, as Tanaka laughs like a madman. Finally, Yoshiki forces Hikaru's head back onto the body, as the strange essence seemingly pours back inside Hikaru's body, his head sticking back on, Yoshiki passing out in the process. Yoshiki then comes to later in the hospital, his mom watching over him as she asks him if Old Man Takeda really did attack him, as she says also the incident is being swept under the rug, as a minor village feud. Hikaru is still asleep in the bed besides Yoshiki, still passed out from, well, having his head cut off. We flash over seeing Tanaka holding a towel to his eyes, the man thinking that it has taken forever, but he has finally gotten lucky. He finally has found what he has been looking for. Tanaka seemingly knowing a lot more about the true nature of Nanuki-sama, as he thinks how he has made a lot of progress towards his ultimate goal, which still remains a mystery to us, the audience. Takeda, the son of Old Man Takeda, then interrupts Tanaka, telling him that his father likely won't survive this whole ordeal. As to our surprise, we learn that Tanaka is actually blind, that his sight was taken from him long ago, seemingly by something paranormal, but his sunglasses allow him to see, given to him by his strange, mysterious company. Takeda questions Tanaka about why he is here, knowing that this has something to do with more than just his company. But Tanaka dodges the question, telling him he is on the side of humanity and plans to do something about Nanuki-sama. Yoshiki has gone home from the hospital, eating dinner with his family, his father getting home, obviously very worried about what happened to his son. The next day, Yoshiki is checking up on Hikaru with Miss Kurobayashi. On the TV, a news reporter talks about a YouTuber who went missing at an apparent haunted tunnel nearby in their region. This being a reference to a set of real-life tunnels in Japan and the urban legends around them, that the fact that these tunnels are haunted as well as a nearby village is haunted. Kurobayashi tells Hikaru the reason that the Darumazuka tunnel is haunted is because bones were found there a long time ago, an old set of bones, but strangely they were only the bones of human torsos. Not long after this, the bones of human arms were found in Urikari, the leg bones then found up in Ashidori. All that was left then was the skulls, which were never found. Yoshiki thinking back to how all these strange entities that he's seen so far had something strange going on with their heads and necks. They then discuss Tanaka, who hasn't been seen in the last 2 days. Yoshiki thinking he's some sort of spirit medium who's been sent here to exorcise Nanuki-sama. This making Kurobayashi laugh, as she believes that no human has the power to do this. Maybe they could possibly move the spirit or trap it in some way, but they don't have the power to exorcise something as powerful as the thing inside Hikaru. As Kurobayashi says she plans on investigating this strange man. Just then Hikaru wakes up, his eyes moving over to Yoshiki, as something strange begins to happen. Hikaru's weird power seemingly reaching out and grasping at Yoshiki, possibly attempting to take his spirit and soul, when Kurobayashi steps in, stopping it. Hikaru then comes to, seemingly having no memory of what just happened, the boy acting like his normal goofy-ass self. The next day the two boys head to school, their friends being extremely happy to see them. As they are talking, Maki asks Yoshiki if he is researching Onuki-sama. Maki tells them that Onuki-sama was once a secret code word used in the villages, that back in the 1700s when they had a famine, they needed to lower the population. So they made a drug out of mercury, mined from the mountain to get rid of babies. This drug being called Uronuki medicine, which gave rise to the mountain's name, Nisayama. Nisa meaning cinnabar, a material that is a source of mercury. After the village used this drug for some time, they enshrined it as a god of the mountain, and after doing this, the disease and famine seemingly stopped. Maki explaining that his older brother at university in Tokyo researches this kind of stuff, as Yoshiki gives him some questions to ask him. In a quick sidebar, Yoshiki then asks Hikaru why he visited him the previous night, and then seemingly randomly left, a scene that we haven't seen play out so far, Hikaru saying he doesn't know why he did this, the answer to this not being revealed until the post-credits scene, which we are going to discuss in a minute. Maki tells him his brother replied, saying that by the time the village split up in the 1700s, Inuki-san was gone as a religious figure. However, there were still rumors of a curse befalling those in this area. From this moment on, Christianity began to spread throughout this region, the new village adopting this new religion. All of the villages except for Kubitachi, which still worships Nonuki-sama. Yoshiki then speculating that Inuki-sama's name was changed to Nonuki-sama by the time that all of these villages split. Every other village forgetting about Nonuki-sama, except for their village, which wasn't allowed to forget, likely from this mysterious ancient Indo family sin that the family committed. They then go to Hikaru's house visiting the Indo family temple, opening the door to see a shrine filled with wooden heads. Hikaru suddenly getting some of his memories back, as he remembers his dad telling him these heads are offerings to Nonuki-sama, and that they are all the heads of dead people, and that the other body parts had to be buried as far away as possible, explaining why all the bones were found in the other villages. This being why the village was ultimately split into 5 separate ones, and that most of the heads belonged to the elderly or terminally ill, but sometimes people were killed and sacrificed, and that this is the curse of this village. This is why it is referred to as a murder village. Hikaru, though, can't remember everything, as he still can't remember what exactly was the Indo family sin. Yoshiki thinking that they could possibly ask his dad for more information. After the credits roll, we see the scene from the previous night when Hikaru visited Yoshiki at his house, as we see Hikaru is in some sort of a daze, acting more on his eldritch being's impulses, wanting to go, in his words, fill himself up, and then he will be satisfied, as this is what he is supposed to do. As we then see the light inside of Yoshiki, seemingly Yoshiki's soul. Hikaru suddenly snapping out of it, realizing exactly what he is doing as he suddenly stops himself and forces himself to leave, as episode 10 of The Summer Hikaru Dies comes to an end. And yes, that was everything that happened in episode 10 of The Summer Hikaru Died. What might have been one of the fattest lore drops, lore dumps that we've gotten so far in this anime, as we were just dropped with so much lore and information to this story that just absolutely blew up most of the theories that I had for this anime and all of its strange mysteries. We were just given so much new information to just delve deeper into the story and the mystery of Nonuki-sama. What exactly is Hikaru? What is this strange entity inside of him? How does it relate to, this famine in these villages back into the 1700s? And maybe one of the most interesting new mysteries is the nature of Tanaka-san, the strange paranormal investigator who we find out is blind, who has been blinded paranormally, who works for some strange, mysterious company that gave him a set of glasses that somehow allow him to see. Obviously, I haven't read that far in the manga, so I'm basically just going off of everything we've learned in the anime, so I have so many theories on just what exactly is going on with this guy. Part of me just can't shake this thought that somehow this man is a time traveler or super old and was somehow alive in this village, in this area in the 1800s. That's probably wrong, but there's just something in my head that I cannot shake that this dude is obviously way more than he seems, and part of me just wonders if he somehow has a personal relationship or interaction with Nonuki-sama. Somehow this guy is way older than he seems. But I guess we're just going to have to wait and find out. But man, is there so many weird-ass theories for this character. Really, the kind of crux of this episode were these kind of big reveals on, the history of the village. Information that we had already kind of been getting so far, but it really got blown up in this episode with the reveal from Maki that, back in the 1700s, the god that they referred to as Onuki-sama later changed its name to Nonuki-sama. And this original god for these villages was made, seemingly spawned by the need to lower the population, which is rather dark and gruesome because of the famines that were happening. How they created a drug from mercury mined in the mountain and then used that to basically, well, lower the population, we'll say. And that they then enshrined this drug in the mountain and they begin praying to it, I guess. It kind of becoming their god in many sense, because I guess in many ways, it saved this village, as dark as that may seem. Now, my mind is immediately racing here. I did a video a while back on how to kill a god, just a kind of thought process delving into like many like different deities across many different medias, and ultimately like how gods are killed. And this idea came to me about like this relationship between like this idea of believing in something, worshiping something, and it becoming a god. Something that is kind of how deities are made and crafted in many different like fantasy kind of, like franchises out there, specifically one of Dungeons and Dragons. In Dungeons and Dragons, if a being or entity is worshipped enough, if it gains enough followers, ultimately it will become a god. It becomes a god through sheer belief alone. And part of me wonders if that is something, kind of akin to that is what's happening in this anime. If somehow these villagers actually enshrining this medicine made out of mercury and praying to it and worshiping it is ultimately what created Nonuki-sama, what created the strange eldritch entity that is Hikaru. In many ways, Hikaru as like a being became kind of the spiritual embodiment of this drug, a being that was meant to take life. Now, again, this is just broad speculation, but this is immediately where my mind goes to, as there just seems to be some kind of link here between this drug, the worship of the drug as a mountain spirit, and then it ultimately being birthed as an actual god, an actual spiritual entity. And then there is the nature of the sacrifice, the gifts that were given by this village to the mountain spirit, the god, how they, killed people or people died and then they cut up their bodies being spread all throughout these villages, but it was the heads themselves that were seemingly kept and sacrificed and given as, given as like a sacrifice and offering to this mountain spirit to ultimately appease it. This explaining why all of these strange kind of entities, the impurities, these spirits that have been encountered by Yoshiki had some kind of like relationship with their neck and head. They all had, their heads missing or weird things going on with their neck and head, which makes sense as this village is, basically haunted, corrupted by all sorts of spirits that have their heads removed. People that had their heads removed in real life that are seemingly back haunting this village. And then there is the question of the Indo family sin, something that has only really been teased so far, but obviously is a key core component in this entire mystery in discovering what exactly Hikaru, the entity in Hikaru, really is, and why exactly the Indo family had to conduct all of these rituals to appease the mountain spirit. We got so much information in this episode, but man, has it only made me ask more questions. That very much seems to be the theme of this anime. It seems like with every door they open, with all the information that they give us, more closed doors and questions just seemingly arise, which I absolutely love, and I think is the crux of how to make a good mystery anime. And man, is this a good mystery anime. Not only is it a fantastic horror anime, not only does it have many different facets of horror, from like body horror, just like creepy moments and themes, jump scares, this toxic, strange relationship, this kind of mutually like beneficial but also like destructive relationship between Hikaru and Yoshiki, that very much being an element of the horror. It has all of these things together, but it is also a fascinating mystery story, while also having all of these really interesting like slice of life moments that bait you in to make the horror even scarier. I'm absolutely loving this anime. It's a banger. It's an absolutely fantastic, amazing, really interesting story, and I do love how it links, the story links all of these elements of like Japanese folklore, Japanese mythology, from like, actual mountain spirits, yokai, kami, mountain spirit, kami, all of these elements of Shintoism, to all of these elements of like Japanese folklore, like paranormal kind of like, folklore throughout Japan. Specifically in this episode, the reference to like the haunted tunnel that leads to like a cursed village, this being a very much prevalent idea in like Japanese folklore and mythology, as there are several accounts of like haunted tunnels in Japan that lead to like haunted cursed villages, this being a kind of theme that is reoccurring throughout like many different anime. I mean, we literally see it in Dawn to Dawn of all anime at the very beginning, this being, if you think back to, fans of Dawn to Dawn will know that they went to a haunted tunnel, this ultimately being where they encounter Turbo Granny early on in the Dawn to Dawn series. This being a kind of, a core Japanese like horror folklore kind of mythological thing that, has encapsulated Japanese society is a well-known story in kind of Japanese folklore, like horror society, and I love seeing these kind of elements be introduced in this actual horror anime and done in a much more kind of serious horror tone. I think it's just really cool because Japan is filled with all sorts of crazy interesting and crazy cool kind of like horror folklore and mythology, so it's very interesting seeing them getting played out in this anime. Yeah, this episode was slapping. Episode 10 was absolutely fantastic. I cannot wait to see what happens in the next episode, as season 1 of The Summer Hikaru Died is rapidly coming to an end, and I already am fiending, jonesing for season 2. As always, guys, with these videos, these are just my thoughts and opinions, so feel free to let me know yours in the comment section down below. What did you think of The Summer Hikaru Died episode 10, and what do you think of this anime so far? Let me know in the comment section. If you did enjoy this anime and learn something new, please make sure you like, comment, and subscribe, as that is the easiest way to support me, and it really does go a long way in putting this video into the algorithm. If you did like this video, then want to check out some of my other anime content on screen now. And as always, I hope to see you in the next video. Stay safe out there. Until next time, peace, love, Auto.